I don't want to have to start by being confrontational, so we'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to eventually be a little confrontational today, but I'll start with a little fill in the blank. The 2025 draft is
Good. I think it's been oversold as a bad class. And I think that's based on where the perception was in December of this group. But then you have some true juniors like Armand Mimbo and Nick Eamon jump into the class, and that boosted up. And we have solid play in the college football playoffs from guys like Jalen Walker, Will Howard, the running backs from Ohio State. There's so many players continue to elevate their stock over the month of January. Then we get into the true pre-draft process of the Shrine Game, the Senior Bowl, the Combine, Pro Days. So I don't think this is a great blue chip draft. I only gave out 13 first round grades. That's a little low. But this is a meat and potatoes draft. This is a really good year to get starters in round two, round three. It's a really good year to address your offensive line, your defensive line, running back. So don't let anybody come on here and tell you guys this isn't a good draft. It just doesn't have star power at quarterback early in the first round.
Is that the difference between blue chips and just starters?
Yeah, it really is. And I think also household names. Most draft fans are starting to tune in about now. And they're not following this process all year long like a lot of us are. And so it's, okay, who are the household names? Travis Hunter, Shador Sanders, Abdul Carter, probably not a national name at this point. Cam Ward, who's going to be the first overall pick, was a good quarterback. He led the FBS in touchdown passes, but he wasn't a Heisman finalist. He wasn't somebody whose team made the college football playoffs. So I think it's a matter of the really good players in this class are either a little bit unknown or they're at positions like offensive tackle, defensive tackle that don't get a ton of airtime usually.
All right, fill in the blank number 2. In this draft, the Seahawks need 2.
Get starters. You have 5 picks in the top 100. This is a starter-based draft. So I think there are a lot of team needs. Interior of the offensive line continues to be an issue. I think there's a need for another wide receiver. I think you could even look at corner and safety as needs. With those 5 picks in the top 92, I think the key is getting starters. This doesn't have to be a sexy draft with flat, let's go get a wide receiver in the first round or a corner in the first round. Just draft good players. Like, stick to your board. John Schneider's been good at drafting when they haven't gotten too cute, drafting linebackers in the first round, things like that. I would say stick to your board, and you could come out of here with 5 starters.
What positions do you want to draft in the first round? Take this year out of it, just in general.
Yeah.
What are the positions in your view? We've been having a long conversation about this over the last month on the show, but from your perspective, sort of regardless of who's there that year, what are the positions you want to draft in the first round?
Yeah, I think you look at the franchise tag numbers and you start at the top: quarterback, left tackle, defensive end, wide receiver, and corner. Those are the money positions right now. And I think those are the positions where if you draft someone and you hit, you're saving so much money that it completely changes your franchise for 4 to 5 years. If you hit on a quarterback, we all know the value in that. Same if you hit on a left tackle, because those are few and far between. They're hard to find. As you guys know, you have a good one in Charles Cross, who is still on a rookie deal. You're saving a lot of money by having a good player at that position instead of having to pay the top end salaries. Wide receivers are making $40 million a year now. If you can find a starting wide receiver in the first round and not have to pay them for 3 to 4 years, you're saving yourself so much money that you can invest in other positions. So, obviously, there's going to be players that are exceptions to that rule. Ashton Genty from Boise State is an exception to that rule this year. The tight end position with Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, I think they're exceptions to the rule. But generally speaking, the way to get ahead in the NFL is to draft those money positions and hit on them in the first round.
So we're going to come back to that in a moment. But then how do you view generally the second and third rounds? What are those rounds for in an ideal world?
Yeah, in an ideal world, you're trying to identify starters. And if you can, like running back. Running back is still valuable, even if it's not highly paid. I think Saquon's making about $25 million a year, but we see the value of a running back. You're still getting ahead if you draft a running back in the second round and they're productive for you. You're very much ahead if you can get a wide receiver in the second round or a corner in the second round. So, I do think ultimately it comes back to your team needs do matter. You got to play the board in terms of talent that's going to be available, right? But I do think you want to look at it almost in like a money ball sense of how can we financially get ahead. It doesn't make sense for us to draft a punter in the fourth round, or a kicker in the fourth round, because you can grab one of those guys, an undrafted free agent, a workout player. So if I were ever in that chair, it's let's look at these money positions that we need to fill. And for Seattle, there's wide receiver, corner. There's room for another pass rusher. Those are our money positions that you need to get filled, and that's where I would want to target. Even existing team needs on the interior offensive line; those have to get figured out. But you want to make sure you're taking care of the outsides too.
All right? What's going on with McMillan? Tell me, because I know you've written about it. I've seen you tweet about it, etc. Talked about it. I'll preface this by saying that I've said now multiple times on the show, if the Seahawks draft a wide receiver in the first round, I'm going to vomit. Like, I'm going to be really upset. After everything they've done and all of the talk about becoming more physical, better running game, complementing your defense, trading DK Metcalf, drafting a wide receiver just 2 years ago in the first round, JSN. If they draft another wide receiver in the first round, I'm going to be really upset. Talk me off a ledge. Why would it be a good idea for them to draft Teteroa McMillan there?
At 18, he's giving you size and 50-50 catchability, above the rim skills that no other receiver in this class has. It's really that simple. There's no one else like him in this class. There's some big receivers. There's no one that plays the ball as well as he does. The hard part about him is, like, which version are we getting? I thought he played down this year. I know his stats were still amazing, and folks are his fans are gonna get on me for saying this. He played down this year. He really did. He had 6 drops. The urgency in his route running was gone this year. He had a new head coach. I think that played into it a lot. He is not the only college football player that I saw make business decisions this year where you feel like, I'm going to be a first round pick. I'm getting NIL money. Let's shift it into neutral a little bit. That happens, and it's an issue, right? The question is, do you know how to ramp back up? Do you have that hunger to ramp back up? There's a video that surfaced of him saying, and it might have been 2 years ago, him saying, I don't really watch film. I don't really watch football. I'm not going to put a lot of stock into that because, as we all know, things can be clipped and taken out of context. But that video is out there, and I think that's why you've seen on social media people cool on him a little bit as far as wanting him. At 18, I think he's a good value. I really do. He's my number 22 overall player in the class. And if you just watch 2023, you would think he's a top 10 player in this class. So it is that question of, can you get him to buy back in a little bit?
It's a hard one, because you're talking about the problems I have. Position. I just don't want them to draft any wide receiver there. I mean, the needs on the offensive line and to make the defense even better to get to elite, to me, are so huge. But if you're telling me there's a wide receiver that has questions, I'm not even saying bad work ethic, but that there are questions about the work ethic, business decisions, etc. What are my choices? That guy either those things are a problem for the first couple years and it doesn't work out, or he ends up as a diva wide receiver in a couple of years and you end up having to spend so much money on him down the road that he ends up, kind of right back in the same spot. That's hard for me.
That's what drafting wide receivers in a nutshell, though, right? It's like, pick your poison because you have to have them. And there are guys in this class who you watch them play and you see the hunger, you see the urgency, and I'm with you. Like, I'm always going to prefer those guys. I have Matthew Golden ranked ahead of Teteroa McMillan, and a lot of that is just based on the way that he played. Kind of the fight that he played with. Very different builds, very different body types. I don't particularly love the idea of Matthew Golden in Seattle with JSN and Cooper Kupp. I don't know that it's a great fit. And I think that is another part of this is, how do you stack your board? When we look at a team with 2 second-round picks, 2 third-round picks, if you're telling me I could have Jaden Higgins from Iowa State in the second round, who's 6'3", 215, really good player, I might like him better with that second-round pick instead of a wide receiver 18, given where the strengths are in this class.
Talking to ESPN draft analyst Matt Miller here, under 2 weeks from the draft. And we'll see you on ESPN, right? All day on Saturday. Is that right?
All day on Saturday. And our goal is to stay current with the picks. And we're going to break them down. Like, Saturdays for the draft nerds. So You're going to get a ton of real football content explaining why this is a good fit, why it's not a good fit, and really giving you scouting reports on the players.
All right. Well, this isn't a Saturday question, but it is, I still think, kind of a draft nerd question. So we'll go here. You're John Schneider. You're at number 18, and these 3 players are all on the board. You want to take one of them. You want Kelvin Banks? Do you want Gray Zabel? Or do you want Booker?
I want Kelvin Banks. He's my number 8 overall player. So that's like easy. I would run to the podium. I do not understand the slander about Kelvin Banks right now, if you want to call it that. 3-year starter. While at Texas, he surrendered 3 sacks, one per year. Last year, his pressure rate allowed was the lowest in college football. Everyone focuses on the Georgia game. Quinn Ewers struggled to get the ball out. Like he was seeing ghosts out there. The ball was not coming out. Kelvin Banks gave up 1 sack in that game that was on him, and Jalen Walker made a hell of a play. I would run to the table with Banks. And again, I'm a Charles Cross fan. I think Kelvin Banks could be an all pro guard if you want to put him at left guard. He's 6'4". He's got a big wingspan. He's great in the run game, his mobility in the pass game. I think if you put him at guard next to a good tackle, man, you could have something really, really special.
Could he be a right tackle and move Abe Lucas inside as well?
He's never done it, but I think he's athletic enough too. I always struggle with the can you move a guy from left to right if they haven't done it before. And, week 1 of his true freshman season, he was the starting left tackle. So there's no tape out there that says, hey, here's him taking some pass sets at right tackle or right guard. So I'm sure he could from an athletic standpoint. There's just no evidence to support that.
All right, let's say he's gone. Zabel or Booker?
Oh, that's tough. I think I would go Zabel on upside, but I have them really close together, and I love Booker's toughness. He's just such a like average athlete that makes it tough. But all the tape says he's great, high character, super high football IQ. With Zabel, the nice thing is you're getting a 5-position player basically. He could play tackle. Hey, he's done it. He can play guard. He can play center. So you kind of get to create your own path with him to some degree, where you could say we want to move Abe inside. Gray could play right tackle. Did it at the Senior Bowl. If you want to, shore up the center position, he could start at center. He could start at either guard spot. So he just gives you a little bit more versatility. And not that he's going to play 5 positions in the NFL, but you can build your line, with different ideas. It's like, okay, we want a strong left side. We're going to go across and Zabel. Or, if you want to bookends, you could do it that way. So I just think he gives you a little bit more creativity.
If you do decide you want to go quarterback, and I don't know whether they will, but it's been an interesting offseason, obviously, here in Seattle. First 2 guys are off the board. Let's assume Shador actually goes in the top 15 like he should. And you want to, and maybe not even at 18. Who is the 3rd best quarterback in this draft? Is it Milroe, Dart, Shook, someone else?
I think it's Dart. I'm not a Milroe guy. I'm really not.
Have you seen this rumor from yesterday or a couple days ago that the Seahawks might draft him at 18?
I had not seen that rumor. Man, that would be a mistake. And I like to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, and that teams know more than I do because they've got like 30 people doing this and I'm one person. Am I wrong, or does throwing the ball still matter for quarterbacks? Like, don't we still care about that? Do we learn nothing from Anthony Richardson? Like, running a 4.3 is fantastic, but you still have to be a passer. I don't know. I like Jalen Milroe as a person a lot. Like, he's a great young man, and I'm not trying to disparage his game on the show here, but he needs so much work as a passer. I think it's a 2-year project of getting him out there.
Where would you do if you liked him, you love him? It's just like, look, I love the speed, I love the leadership, the strength. That maybe he can play other positions while he's learning. Like, where would you draft him? What is a reasonable spot to draft a guy like that?
Late second. He's my number 82 overall player. So that's tough for me. And I know guys get elevated because of the position, they get elevated because of traits and tools. The number of quarterbacks who hit because of traits is so small. It's so small. It might be Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and those are 2 really great quarterbacks. They were both farther along as passers than Milroe was. I think the only real comp for him as a passer is Anthony Richardson. And Jalen's not as big as Anthony. I think he's probably a little bit quicker, but he's not as big. He's not as strong. So it's hard for me. I hope he proves me wrong. I really do, because I love everything about his makeup and his wiring. But man, there's a lot of work that has to get done in terms of mechanics and decision making. And he looked like he had the yips last year. Like he got worse over the course of the season, which you don't. That's not what you want to see at the quarterback position. So he's got to figure that part out.
So you said Dart would be your 3rd best. What's the win-loss proposition on the pro cons on Dart?
Yeah, the cons it's going to take. He is going to also need some time because he's coming out of that offense at Ole Miss, where so much was like the table was very set for him because of the play action and RPO, and it was a lot of two reads and then maybe go. But the arm strength is good, the mobility is good. People I've talked to said that the kid is great. His pro day was the best of. I don't know how much stock you want to put into pro days, but his pro day was the best of any quarterback in the cycle because he ran the pro day. He was asking scouts on the sideline, "What do you want to see?" And then they would go do it instead of these like heavily scripted 60 throws, and a lot of them are just little pitch and catch type things. So I think with Dart, it is all upside, but he has shown on tape. He was productive, he was accurate, he throws a really good deep ball. He understands space and timing. I think he can get into more of a traditional West Coast system where it is built on a lot of timing and space. He could be really, really productive. In year one, if you needed to play him, I think he could be like Bo Nix, where you could cover him up a little bit, let him learn on the job. I mean, he started for 3 years at Ole Miss. He has a lot of experience. It's just getting him caught up to making reads and decisions outside of that offense.
Who would you rather have? This is sort of a weird question, but who would you rather have right now? I guess that's not fair, but who would you because one guy's already been in the league a few years, but would you rather have him or Sam Howell?
Oh, I'd rather have him, without a doubt. I wasn't a Sam Howell guy.
Okay.
I had a third or fourth round grade on Sam Howell, backup grade. I was not a big believer.
And you think that Dart is a potential starter, but does he have potential franchise ability?
I don't think he has Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson ability, but could he be, a fringe top 10 quarterback with a good team around him? Like, could he be Dak Prescott? Yeah. I do think he has enough talent to be at that level.
You mentioned the two tight ends earlier that could be first round picks. I don't, it's hard to draft a tight end in the first round. You really have to be right. But if either of those guys or both of those guys are available at 18, which one, or first of all, would you consider doing that if you were the Seahawks? And if so, which one?
I would consider it just because I think the league is going that direction where if you can have a mismatch at tight end, like look at Sam Laporta, Trey McBride, and I know neither of those guys were first round picks, but their impact has been huge. I like Colston Loveland more than Tyler Warren, and it's close. I have Loveland at 6, I have Warren at 9. So they're both fantastic players. I like the athleticism of Loveland, his ability to create, the way that he can run himself open. He's just a better route runner. Tyler Warren is a fantastic football player. He's there's a lot of like mauler to his game where he's going to run over guys, he's going to run around guys. Like they're both great. If they were there at 18, I would absolutely consider it. I guess my only concern would be your passing game is very like middle of the field centric at this point with JSN, with Cup, and then you add in a first round tight end. It's like who's stretching the boundary, who's making things happen down the field.
Yeah, and you don't want to get caught in a situation where you do tight end there, then you say, okay, I'm going to get the wide receiver or something in the second round. You have to address the offensive line because you didn't do anything in free agency. So, like, it's the biggest problem I've had with this offseason for the Seahawks. Like, I don't know how good all of the offensive linemen were, but of the 9 or 10 of them that changed teams, none of them were good enough to come in and at least give you some flexibility in the draft to do everything else that was possible. It's just, this has driven me insane for a month.
It's tough. This wasn't a good offensive line group in free agency. It really wasn't. I mean, Dan Moore and Jalen Moore got paid as starters. That says a lot. And neither guy had really shown the tape to justify that. Mm-hmm. But I'm with you. The offensive line's been a problem. You have how many former players are constantly talking about
all of them?
As long as the offensive line is a problem, it's the issue is going to be the same. And especially adding Sam Darnold, I know you guys have talked about it a lot. It's a quarterback who struggles with that pressure in his face. He needs answers. He needs help. So I know I did a 7-round mock draft, and I had the Seahawks taking Jared Wilson, the center from Georgia, and Tate Ratledge, the guard from Georgia, in the second round.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like, you know what?
Why do you like those two guys?
Well, I mean, Jared Wilson's a great athlete at center. He's the one-year starter, but his athleticism, I mean, he's ideal for zone running schemes. He's a very good pass protector. Tate Ratledge is just tough as hell. I mean, he's got a mullet. He's probably plays with a dip in. He's old school, but I'm kind of fascinated by the idea of putting teammates together because they're comfortable playing next to one another. There's not going to be that learning curve of, okay, I've got to figure out this center I'm playing next to. So if you draft these guys and Ratledge was a right guard, if you put Wilson and Ratledge together, you've already got some chemistry on your offensive line. And we know the data shows that continuity and chemistry on the offensive line matters a ton. Teams work so hard to keep their starting 5 together once they get one. So you bring in 2 players who already have that relationship and that trust in each other. I think you're cheating the game a little bit if you can bring in 2 teammates. The Rams did it with Fisk and Verse. And it's different on defense to some degree, but You see how well they worked in tandem. It's even more important on the offensive line. So why not keep these two together?
You know that between John Schneider and Mike McDonald, they're not going to get out of the first 3 rounds without taking someone in the front seven on defense, nor should they. I mean, like, if you want that to be elite, it's a really good unit, I think, already. But if you want it to be elite, you got to keep drafting there. Give me a front seven fit or two that you think works for the Seahawks.
Yeah, I would look at defensive tackle. And I think a big question is, where's Byron Murphy going to play? Is he going to be, where he was last year, or is he eventually going to play a little bit more three technique? Because of, I think that's where his value is. I would look at Tyleik Williams from Ohio State, 322 pounds. He could be that one technique. He could play nose. He would allow you a little bit more flexibility up front. And then even, Murphy's old teammate, Alfred Collins, would be the same thing. And I think with Collins, there's a lot more upside because he had to sit behind Murphy and Tavondre Sweat, and we didn't always get to see exactly what he could do as a pass rusher because of the scheme that he played in. I have both those guys as mid-round 2 picks, so they would be, I think, good scheme fits. Josh Farmer from Florida State would be kind of a fun one in the 3rd round. Again, a guy who could play inside, but I think there's a little bit more athletic upside that we haven't quite seen from him. His tape's a little frustrating at points because you see flashes. He just needs to become more consistent.
Well, I appreciate the answer. I'm a little bummed you didn't go with the 465-pound nose tackle from Florida because I want that guy in here.
It would be fun.
It would be fun. Is there any chance that guy can play?
I don't think so.
Okay,
but if you got him, and then if you took Willie Lampkin, the 5'10", 275-pound center from North Carolina, and I just want to see.
Let him battle.
We can't really do the Oklahoma drill anymore, but I would love to see it. I'd pay to watch that.
Oh, man, Matt, I appreciate this. Thank you. It's good to get all of this. And not only is it fun to have it now, but we'll play all of this sound over the course of the next 2 weeks leading up to the draft. For everyone who's going to be watching ESPN on Saturday, you're going to see Matt along with, who are you with? Is Mel there with you?
Mel, Reese Davis, Field Yates, and Louis Riddick. So we've got a pretty good group.
That is a really, really good group. And as a draft guy, sitting next to Mel on Saturday of the draft has to just be a thrill.
In the second story, in the ever-evolving world of the NFL, few things stay constant. Teams retool, rosters shift, and players move on. Or sometimes, they come back. Such is the case with quarterback Drew Lock, who is set to return to the Seattle Seahawks after a 1-year stint with the New York Giants. Multiple outlets confirmed on Friday that Lock, 28, will rejoin the Seahawks on a 2-year, $5 million contract per ESPN. It's a homecoming of sorts for the former second-round pick, who first arrived in Seattle in 2022 as part of the blockbuster trade that sent Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos. For Lock, this isn't just another pit stop in a journeyman career. It's a chance at redemption, familiarity, and perhaps a more defined role in a city that has already seen glimpses of what he can offer. Lock's 2024 season with the Giants was turbulent. He appeared in 8 games, starting 5, and posted a 1-4 record. He threw for 1,071 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions, and added 2 scores on the ground. While the numbers don't leap off the stat sheet, context is key. The Giants were riddled with injuries, inconsistency, and offensive struggles all season. Lock stepped into a difficult situation and showcased poise, if not polish. Over 5 seasons with Denver, Seattle, and New York, Lock has compiled a 10-18 record as a starter, with a completion rate of 59.6%, 6,354 passing yards, 34 touchdowns, 28 interceptions, and 7 rushing scores. While these aren't the numbers of a franchise quarterback, they reflect a player capable of contributing in a backup role and stepping in when needed. Something increasingly valuable in a league where quarterback injuries have become a common storyline. Seattle's decision to bring Lock back isn't just about depth, it's strategic. Lock already knows the playbook, coaching staff, and locker room culture. That level of continuity is rare in backup quarterback situations and gives the Seahawks a reliable insurance policy behind presumed starter Geno Smith. Lock's previous tenure in Seattle, 2022 to 2023, wasn't marked by high-volume playing time, but internally, his presence was seen as a steadying force. He knows the system, has built relationships with key personnel, and understands the expectations. In a league where chemistry often takes time to build, that built-in rapport gives Locke a leg up over incoming or untested alternatives. Locke's return, however, creates a ripple effect for the rest of the quarterback room, most notably for Sam Howell. Acquired in a surprising mid-off-season trade, Howell was once considered a high-upside developmental talent. Now, his role is less certain. Coaches find themselves at a crossroads. Howell showed flashes of potential during his time with Washington, but also struggled with decision-making and turnovers. With Locke returning, it appears Seattle is leaning toward veteran stability over youthful upside, at least in the immediate future. This isn't necessarily an indictment of Howell, but rather a reflection of the difficult choices teams must make in pursuit of consistency. Quarterback depth is critical, especially for a team with playoff aspirations, and the Seahawks are clearly banking on Locke's experience to help navigate those moments when the starter can't go. For the Seahawks, Locke's signing could serve two purposes. In the short term, it adds an experienced, system-familiar backup capable of guiding the offense through injury-related turbulence. But in the longer view, it also signals that the team may not be sold on Howell, or any current young option, as the eventual successor to Geno Smith. Smith, while still performing at a high level, is entering the latter stages of his career. Seattle may very well use the 2025 draft or a future free agency period to target a more definitive heir apparent. Until then, Locke is more than just a safety net. He's a capable stopgap with starting experience and locker room leadership. Locke's return highlights the duality of NFL roster management, blending sentiment and strategy. It's not often that a player comes back to a franchise with unfinished business and immediate value, but that's exactly what's happening here. At the same time, the uncertainty surrounding Howell is a reminder of the sport's ruthlessness. Talent doesn't always guarantee opportunity, especially when competition is fierce and roster spots are few. Howell's trajectory may still rise, but it may not happen in Seattle. As the Seahawks continue shaping their roster for the 2025 season, Drew Lock's re-signing brings clarity to one of the most crucial positions in the sport. It also brings a familiar face back to a locker room that knows what he's about: grit, professionalism, and the willingness to stay ready. Seattle's quarterback room may still evolve before Week 1, but for now, the message is clear. Experience, trust, and system fit matter. And in Drew Lock, the Seahawks believe they've secured all three.